It's Tuesday, January 23rd. I'm Scott.
And I'm Rim.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight we discuss the new game, BattleLore. Let's do this.
Well, I certainly came home to a pleasant surprise today.
Yeah, well, I said last week that I would try something new, and I bought video games on Amazon. I ordered both WarioWare Wii and Phoenix Wright Injustice for All, the new Phoenix Wright game.
Yep, now I had previously done this with Castlevania Portrait of Ruin.
Mm-hmm. And, well, the game showed up today, Monday, which is about a week after they came out. So if you're thinking about pre-ordering games on Amazon, I can tell you a few things. Number one, the price is right. You'll pay the same price or less than you'll pay at EB or GameStop. You know, maybe Best Buy will get you a lower price sometimes.
Maybe.
They like to have sales there, but, you know, probably not. Also, you'll get the games about a week after they come out if you pre-order and choose the free United States Postal Service shipping.
I mean, you could pick overnight shipping if you're a nut.
Yeah, so if you really kind of need games the day they come out, and for some games, you do need that, you know, especially online type games. Like if I was a World of Warcraft player and I didn't think it was a complete waste of time and the stupidest thing ever, then yes, you would need the Burning Crusade the day it came out. But WarioWare, you know, it's not like I was having a party this week, so I don't really need it any sooner.
Yeah, though we may possibly have a party next weekend.
No, I can't. No,
why not? We have to.
No. Anyway, we might not even have the Wario unlocked by then.
We better.
All I can say is that Wario and Phoenix Wright, woo!
WarioWare Smooth Moves is exactly what I could hope it would be. And all I have to say is that Monkey Ball can die in a fire. Monkey Ball for the Wii is perhaps the worst launch title.
Yeah, it's no, because there are those other launch titles, the kinds you don't even mention.
Like what?
The kinds based on crap kids cartoons.
Those might be better.
No. No.
Monkey Ball is pretty bad.
Monkey Ball is bad, but it's not that bad.
I think it is.
I mean, no, because there are games out there. Like you ever play the Barney game for the Sega Genesis?
You know what? I'll bet that those games for the Wii work. Monkey Ball doesn't even work. Half those mini games are non-functional.
Yeah, it's true. It's bad. Maybe we'll do a show on how bad the Monkey Ball is.
We might have to.
Eventually, but that's not for today.
Yeah. So anyway, in the news, it appears that some people over at the Score Hero forums have figured out how to put your own songs into Guitar Heroes 2.
Oh, well, that's something that's very necessary.
The bad news is it takes 8 separate programs, 12 complicated steps, a modded PS2.
What the hell are they doing? They're like, wow, how could it take 8 separate...
I didn't read it, but from what I gather, what you essentially do is rip the game, futz with it, burn it to a new disc with your modified version, and then play it like a mod game in your modded PS2.
They should have really just combined all those things into, you know, you don't go out and say, hey, here's a way to hack Guitar Hero. You say, here, we wrote a program that does it in one step for you.
I can guarantee that within a few months, someone's going to do just that.
Yeah, that's sort of a necessity.
This was definitely not the, hey, this is now common. This was the, hey, there's a way to do it post. This is the very beginning.
Plus, this thing kind of wouldn't really be necessary if there was a Stepmania equivalent for Guitar Hero.
But there is.
Oh, there is, really?
It's called Frets on Fire, and we talked about it a while ago.
That's kind of a lame name. They should have called it just Guitar Mania or something to go with Stepmania. Or like, I don't know, String Mania. Or even Fret Mania, if you want to keep the fret. Fret Mania is cool.
They might have been worried about being sued or
by
something like that.
You
never know.
All right. Anyway.
But the issue here is that from the screenshots I've seen and from what I've looked at, compared to Guitar Heroes 2, Frets on Fire looks pretty goddamn lame.
Yeah?
I mean, at least Stepmania does everything possible to perfectly emulate a DDR machine.
Stepmania is in many ways better than a DDR machine. I mean, other than a Supernova machine, Stepmania, the current version, and I'm not even counting the beta version, just the current stable version, is about as good as a DDR8 mix or a In the Groove 2 machine.
I mean, it emulates
as long as you have a powerful enough computer and your song files aren't screwed up and your music is in sync.
And you have a pad that's good.
And you have a good dance pad, yes.
But yeah, I mean, it emulates right down to, you could set it up like an arcade machine. You could hook up a coin slot, and it would deal with that. It has an interface ready for a coin slot.
Yep.
It's just straight up. Brett's on Fire just kind of looks like lame 3D cubes coming down strings.
Yeah, I have a feeling the people who made Frets on Fire are not the not of the Stepmania developer caliber.
Well, their website is slow and at a weird domain.
Ah, that's always a tip-off that someone is not too bright.
Well, I have a feeling that the people, I mean, I might be totally wrong, and if I'm wrong about this, people who make Frets on Fire, feel free to correct me. But I get the impression that Frets on Fire was made and rushed out the door so they could be the first ones to make that, hoping that the community would grow around them like it did in Stepmania. And I have
Not
a
realizing
feeling
that the community grows around quality, not the first to the gate, as is
However-
evidenced by the Wii.
Frets on Fire does have one new cool feature.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, you can take Guitar Heroes or Guitar Heroes 2, put it in your computer, rip it, and then play all those songs straight up in Frets on Fire.
Oh, now if only. See, that's something Stepmania needs.
Yes.
Why doesn't Stepmania... see, yeah, they got one. So basically, Stepmania has everything that DDR needs except one feature. Frets on Fire has basically the barest bones of what Guitar Hero needs, plus one feature that Stepmania doesn't have.
Yeah, because we already actually have third mix, fourth mix, fifth mix, extra mix, all those. We have the discs.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
If we couldn't find them, I would just buy them.
Yeah, they're not that hard to get.
The thing is, it sucks because, those are all like PS1 games, and the other DDRs are PS2 games, and new DDRs are Xbox and PS3 games. And it's like, without a PS3 and a 360 and a PS2, you can't play every DDR mix there is. So if there was a way to load those things off the disc into Stepmania, then with one computer, you could dance every DDR dance that ever danced.
Though, honestly, I think the long-term answer is just to buy a DDR machine.
It is, and it put a Stepmania computer inside of it. After ripping the songs off of the discs inside of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, though, here's the problem.
Oh, you can buy DDR machines on Amazon. Also,
Yes, you
Time
can.
Crisis machines and air hockey tables.
They're not that expensive.
Just as expensive as a car, that's all.
You know what?
Car or DDR?
They're not as expensive as they used to be.
No, they used to be more because you had to import them.
Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, the problem with this feature is that apparently on a computer faster than any computer we own, it takes more than 8 hours.
No, well, that's bound to happen.
Yeah, so we'll watch and wait, and I guess in the meantime, we'll probably just buy a PS2 and Guitar Heroes and Okami.
Yeah,
and
the only thing is I'm worried that if we'll buy a PS2, which will be free technically.
And then Guitar Heroes will come out.
Well, yeah, and then we won't. Then the next Guitar Hero games will come out for the 360, which we won't have. So we'll have Guitar Hero 1 and 2, but we won't be able to get any of the future ones.
But then, if they don't release Guitar Heroes 1 and 2 on the 360, then we have to get a PS2 anyway, because Guitar Heroes 2 has some great songs.
It does. It really just kind of sucks that, this whole series you would have a series. Stop doing it. I can't talk.
You can keep talking.
It really sucks to have a series that spans multiple consoles, because then if you don't follow those consoles, then you can't get the whole series.
Oh, like Final Fantasy?
Yeah, or like Soul Calibur, where it was like 1, 2, 3's just on the PS2. It's not going to be on anything else.
Though I think it's telling that, at least as far as I've seen among the general gamer community, Soul Calibur 2 is still more popular than Soul Calibur 3.
Soul Calibur 3 wasn't so good. The only thing it added was you can make your own guy.
Which is pretty cool.
Pretty cool, but not worth paying for a game just to make your own guy. I mean,
Also, the GameCube is more powerful, and
Yeah.
it would have looked better on a GameCube.
I don't care what it looks like. I care how it fights. But anyway, I got some other news going on besides whatever we were talking about.
Well, shoot up.
All right, so everyone knows that this summer, PC gaming is going to get some sort of... Well, this year, PC gaming is going to get a revival. Supposedly, Spore will come out. Supposedly, Supreme Commander will come out. Supposedly, a new Command & Conquer game will come out, which I don't care too much about. But
I'm kind of interested. I haven't played a
I'm
game
a
like
little
that
bit.
in a long time.
yeah, if I'm buying a new computer, I might go for it, especially once it gets to that $20 discount rack.
Yeah.
However, the biggest release this year is going to be
Team Fortress 2.
Half-Life 2 Episode 2. Half-Life 2 Episode 2, Portal, and Team Fortress 2 are all going to be one big release by Valve on Steam, and it's going to be huge. I mean, those are 3 games. I want to play all of them. I've already got Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 2 Episode 1. Got to get Episode 2 because the other one was so awesome. Going to play Portal because that's a first-person shooter puzzler that looks just out of this world. And Team Fortress 2 will be the revival of Team FPS action. Oh, yeah.
Team Fortress 2 has the possibility, of being the game that will bring that genre of gaming back to the masses.
Yes.
That's a whole genre, a whole segment, an important segment, a huge segment, once the only segment of online gaming that was of any value or note, and it's dead now. It's gone. There are kids today who have never played a game like that.
Yep.
And also, I think the people making it know exactly what they're doing.
For the videos, I can only agree with you. If that is the evidence I will judge by.
I'll give it a 90% chance that this game is going to be probably the destruction of our lives.
And if no one
possibly the end of Geeknights.
Even at the worst possible chance, right? No one plays this game but us. Still awesome.
Yes.
So, here's the news. For people like me who already have Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 1 and all the mods and everything, and Half-Life 2 Episode 1, and just about every Half-Life thing there is, we only want to buy Episode 2, Portal, and Team Fortress 2. We don't want to buy anything else because we got it all. Well, Valve is going to sell that to me in the black box, which will be not PSP. It's not going to be on the PSP. Sorry, kids. It's going to be PC only, and it's going to be $40. That's a good deal. $40 for 3 games. Hell, I paid like $15 to $20 for just Half-Life 2 Episode 1.
I paid $65 for Zelda 2.
Yeah, I paid $40 for Half-Life 2. So now I'm paying $40 for a whole episode of Half-Life 2 and Portal and Team Fortress 2. This is like a steal. Here's the bigger news. There's also going to be the orange box. I get the black box because I'm cool and I've already played Half-Life. But for those of you out there who are not into the Half-Life already, you don't have Half-Life 2. Maybe you're like Rim, where you would have played Half-Life 2, but you didn't upgrade your computer. So now it's finally time to play Half-Life 2. They're going to sell you the orange box. The orange box will come with Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2 Episode 1, Half-Life 2 Episode 2, Portal, and Team Fortress 2. And it will be a mere $60.
Once again, less than Mario 3 cost me when it came out.
For the price of a single Xbox 360 game that's brand new, for the price of a single PS3 game, for only $20 more than I paid for Half-Life 2 alone, you will get Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2 Episode 1 and 2, Portal, and Team Fortress. Not only that, but this orange box will be available for the PC, the PS3, and the 360. Holy crap.
Now, is there a possibility, therefore, that I'll be playing online with my computer against, say, Team Fortress 2?
Against some people using gamepads on a 360? There might be a possibility of that. I don't know, because no one said anything.
Because if that's true, there have been a lot of people lately who don't remember the glory days of FPS and on the computer, and they would contend that the non-mouse and keyboard controls of an FPS that consoles have is perfectly adequate for a game of that difficulty and caliber and complexity. And I have never in my life anticipated proving people so wrong, so powerfully, and so easily.
Well, I think you can technically do it in Halo 1, if I'm not mistaken. The problem is Halo is designed for the gamepad play, and thus the keyboard and mouse doesn't give you a huge advantage.
Yeah, I'd love to see someone try to play, I don't know, Mega TF.
There's not enough buttons. What if you're playing Weapons Factory? You just don't have enough buttons.
God.
There's no way. You'd have to open up menus in order to do anything.
Action Quake.
Yeah. But even if that's not a possibility, this is still the awesome, especially for people, because all of these games, except for Team Fortress, are single-player games. So even if there isn't going to be that kind of action, if you're a 360 owner or a PS3 owner, and you don't want to buy a souped-up computer to play all these games, which are some of the best FPSs ever, way better than any of those shit console FPSs you're playing, like your Halos and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm not disparaging Halo, because they're pretty good games, but Halo 2, for as good as it is really got nothing on FPSs that came out in the mid-90s.
Yeah. I mean, so...
Well, maybe the late 90s, I'll get...
Yeah. So now all of you will have complete access to the real deal. For only $60, you're going to get freaking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. Holy shit. This is like the greatest thing ever.
And never feel bad about playing a game late. I mean,
never feel bad about playing a single-player game late.
Yeah, multiplayer
playing
game...
Team Fortress 2, not Team Fortress late, but playing Tribes 2 late, big mistake.
Yeah, picking up Mega TF now, there's one other guy to play with.
Yeah. Multiplayer games, you sort of have to get in when the boat, is about to sail. If it leaves without you, you might as well not get on. But single-player games, there's nothing wrong. I mean, if a kid was born today, he would have no shame playing Zelda 1 8 years from now because he's 8 years old and he wasn't alive when Zelda 1 was new.
I mean, I was playing Counter-Strike for as long as I was in college and, all these mods for Half-Life. Despite that, I had never actually played Half-Life 1. I owned it, but I only owned it for mods. It wasn't until, 3 years ago when I finally, while I was living on co-op and didn't have internet access and lived in the mountains where even my cell phone didn't work, I sat down and I played Half-Life 1.
It's good, isn't it?
It's a pretty damn good game, I must say.
Yeah, it is. All right, that's enough of my news. I can, $60, 5 games. $60, 5 games.
So contrary to what you might have learned in, I don't know, middle school or high school, especially if you're in our generation, which we were actually alive when the Cold War was still going on, which is weird to say because that wasn't that long ago.
No,
We're not that
it always
old.
feels like it was a long time ago, but no, it's recent.
No? I mean, Perestroika, 1989, I knew exactly what was going on.
I didn't. I was a little kid. I didn't know what the hell was going on at all.
Hell, I was politically motivated in 5th grade. I was all about Bill Clinton.
I was just...
And Ross Perot.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't care. I didn't know or care. I didn't even know right from left until...
Well, anyway, when I was 1 in Soviet Russia, someone made this little nice... you might want to call it a propaganda film, except I don't know what I'd call it. Just a fun little stop-motion animation with all these little matches. And it is decidedly anti-war. It is definitely peace propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
And also, well, it's kind of well done. It's kind of funny. It's kind of poignant. And all I really have to say if you watch it is that, peace aside, those blue guys really kind of brought it on themselves and deserved everything they got.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, if we learn anything from this video, is that green is awesome and blue is assholes.
Yeah, I mean, the green guy, was, the border moved a little bit, and the green guy very diligently just put it right back, and everything was okay.
Yeah, the green guy didn't try to push it into the blue area or anything. He was a nice guy. He said, oh, the border is messed up. It's not supposed to be like that. I'll move it back so we're even again. Then the blue guy was like, no, fuck you. We're going to take some of your territory.
And the green guy says, hey, you can't do that. And then the blue guy kills him.
Yep.
And then war escalates. But yeah, this is a nice little... I'll bet a lot of people, maybe people who are older than us, might not have really realized that despite the fact that the U.S. really painted the Soviet Union to be this evil, horrible menace of doom and gloom to all the world.
And it was kind of bad.
Yeah, it was, but it wasn't consummate evil. It just had problems.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like everyone in the whole Soviet Union was a horrible, evil KGB nutcase.
Yeah, I mean, in general, while the Soviet Union was very often misguided in many of its policies, it's not like they were thinking, how can we screw the peasants today, dear Trotsky? I mean, a few people might have been thinking that, but most people were at least trying to do some good for their people.
Yeah, and there are people there in the early 80s making videos like this, and it was awesome.
Yeah, this is a good video.
Yep.
And I can't really say any more about it. I'm not going to ruin what happens, but they're matches. Matches.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious.
You figure out what's going to happen. It took us by surprise, and we knew it was coming.
Yeah, it was done so well. That's
It
why.
was.
All right, my thing is pretty simple. Well, let's see. How many times have I talked about Second Life, even though I've never played it at all in my entire
God, you talk about Second Life and World of Warcraft like there's no tomorrow.
Yet, I've never played either of them at all. Anyway, here's a funny website called GetAFirstLife.com. It's got the same design as, I think, the Second Life website. And at the top of it, it says, Your World. Sorry about that. And then it says funny things on the website, like it says, Go outside. Membership is free. First Life is a 3D analog world where server lag does not exist. Find out where you actually live. Fornicate using your actual genitals. Access your closet to build your First Life look.
Man,
Under 18, get a teen First Life.
I just remember back when I still played MMOs, and in the realm I had my house, and I was obsessed with getting stuff to put in my house, and it was a big deal when I got a hold of some fancy chrysanthemums and some diamonds and things to put on my floor and on my little trophy case and in my little chest. And I was really happy about, building up my little house. Now I got a real house. And that house that was actually just some bits on a server somewhere, not so exciting.
No. Oh, here's a funny bit. We got first life questions. We've got answers. Are 5 senses enough? What's this body thing, and what do I do with the dangly bits? Why can't I build a dirigible with my mind? Penguins, spoons, and you. What's life like among the flightless? I think I've just read the entire website because you can't really click on anything on this website. None of it will take you anywhere.
Oh, so it's one of those joke websites.
Yeah, I mean, you can click dig this. You can click the credits to see the guys who made it.
You know what? In general, I've seen jokes like that before. Mm-hmm. It's a good way to go because a joke like that, if taken to more depth, becomes increasingly less funny.
Yeah, it's like if this actually, at the top, there's a menu that's like, what is life, showcase, business partners, developers. If those actually went to different sites, if you could actually log into this and do stuff, it would just become
There's only one site that's ever gotten away with that. Maybe two, but probably.
HiSpace?
Yeah, HiSpace.
Anyway.
Speaking of which, I wonder if that's updated. I haven't been there in like a month.
There is one link, actually, besides dig this and the credits that actually works. It's the It's the link to Cafe Press where you can buy First Life merchandise.
Really?
Yes, really.
Well, you know what?
It's right under the fornicate using your actual genitals link, which doesn't go anywhere.
Good job, because that's the one people are going to try to click on. And while they're clicking furiously, they'll probably accidentally hit that store link.
Yep.
And then they'll get excited.
It's pretty big. It's got some pictures of T-shirts on it. Whatever. The funniest thing is you should go to the website just to look at it for a second to see all the kids that they have on the front page.
So, in the board gaming, wargaming world, if you don't exist in this world or have a presence there, you probably don't even know what we're going to talk about. But that's good because you're going to learn something. So, we're going to talk about BattleLore, which has been all the rage in the board gaming, wargaming community.
Yeah, this game went from a game that wasn't out yet. Let's see where this game is on the top Board Game Geek games. Oh, let's see. This game that wasn't even out months ago is now number 5 on Board Game Geek. That's pretty damn good. Going from nothing to 5 immediately.
Now, this game has brought... it's a war game, but it's not like a lot of other war games. It's very much in the same vein as Battlecry or Memoir 44.
Well, it uses the Richard Borg is the guy who designed it. Well, he's the guy who designed the Command and Colors system, which is also used in Memoir 44 and Command and Colors Ancients and another game that I forget.
Battlecry.
Yeah.
Yeah, these games are basically the basic mechanic. War games in general tend to be along the lines of you have units. You move them around by a set of rules, command them by a set of rules, and fight with them by a set of rules. The fighting could range from looking up things in tables to rolling dice to drawing abstract lines on a piece of paper and seeing which ones get crossed off, all sorts of different ways these things work. But the purpose is to simulate tactical, strategic warplay.
Yeah, you want to simulate military tactics so the people playing the game feel like military commanders on some level, be it a squad or giant armies across the entire world, and simulate having guys fight and die and kill other guys, and it's my guys versus your guys.
Now, a lot of war games are broken down into grid hex games where you have units on hexes that move around, or the more popular in some circles but also more hated in some circles, the kind of freeform games where you have miniatures and you put the miniatures in terrain.
Yeah, you got stuff. The war games also include stuff like Risk and Dice Wars, even.
Yep.
Advance Wars
or Warhammer 40K, Battle System,
BattleTech,
all that. But this game is definitely designed to be simple. This is a war game that anyone could pick up and learn in about 5 minutes. This is not a complex, difficult-to-learn, onerous war game. You're not going to be sitting there with a tape measure trying to figure out if your skirmishers can make it the 4 inches through the woods to attack the wolf riders.
Yep. It's also a very short war game, whereas if you play something like Shogun or Warhammer, you could be sitting there for a very long time. BattleTech takes hours and hours to play. You could be sitting there for some war games, take days to play.
Yeah, Battle System, a large battle in Battle System could easily take 4 hours. And that's if everyone knows what you're doing and you're using the simple rules.
Yeah, BattleLore, even a simple game, even the very complex game of BattleLore, will take an hour, a little over an hour, depending on, if everyone tries to hold back and delay, because it's you play until you kill a certain number of guys. So if everyone plays very defensively, it'll take longer.
Yeah.
But it's sort of impossible to not fight. So the game doesn't take very long at all.
But this basic mechanic that runs through all these games that we're talking about right now, and BattleLore is the newest iteration of this, is very simple. You will have, by some means, a number of cards. And these cards allow you'll have a hand of cards. And each card, whichever one you play, allows you to give orders to a certain number or type of your units. So say you'll have a card that says, order 2 units on the right side of the board, or order all your units in the center, or order all your green units. And you take turns. So I play a card, order all my green units. Scott plays a card, order all my cavalry, and we go back and forth. So instead of moving all your units every round, you move a subset that you have to choose tactically from a hand that you've drawn.
And this is a big reason why the game doesn't take very long, because you don't have people, usually in a war game, it's like, all right, it's my turn now. And now I spend 15 minutes to a half hour moving all my stuff. Like if you play Advance Wars on a big map, someone's turn usually takes like 5 minutes because they're going all around this map looking for every single unit they haven't used and where to move it and, thinking all this stuff out. In this game, on your turn, at most, you're not going to move so many units. You're never going to move all of them. Most turns, most of your units just sit there doing nothing because you can't order them. So you just, you pick which guys you're going to move, and you move them, and those are the only guys you have to worry about. So your turn is very quick. So no one is sitting around waiting for a long time. And also, because your turns are so quick, the game doesn't take very long because you can take a lot of turns very quickly, and it only takes so many turns for the game to be over.
Now, if BattleLore is basically the same as all these other games, only with a different theme, why is this game the hotness? Why is this game being lauded while the other games in the system, while popular, were never near this level of popularity?
Well, I can figure out 2 reasons, but I think the biggest reason is the theme. The theme of BattleLore is heavy, thick, rich, and awesome.
It is basically the 100 Years' War, only it is the 100 Years' War in a world where there is some degree of magic.
Yes. Now, their first 2 or so adventures in the the book of adventures that comes with the game are medieval adventures. They're Agincourt and First Chevauchée, whatever you call it. And there's no magic, there's no goblins or dwarves or giant spiders. It's just military guys fighting. And those are meant as the introductory battles for new players, because if you don't know the command and color system already, that's a great way to learn without having to worry about the complicated rules of goblins and dwarves and giant spiders and magic spells.
So yeah, the theme is definitely drawing people because the 100 Years' War has been, at least for war gamers, an object of fascination, much like the Napoleonic Wars and the Gallic Wars.
Another thing that I think people are drawing to this game is that the production value of the game is very high. Now, there's a problem with the first print run and the dice, but now you can get better dice for free.
Yeah, and if you get a hold of the old one, they'll send you better dice. They'll help you out.
Yep, and also, this game sort of has, aspects of collectible card games and aspects of miniatures games without actually being it's not a game of who spends the most money wins, or you need to spend a certain amount of money to get the stuff you want, because there isn't sort of a construct your army mechanic where, you pick the best bits to make your army like there would be in Warhammer or something.
Yeah, it's more that this game is very expandable, and you can get or make or whatever expansions that modify the rules or add units or add difficulty or add players or change units or do something to make the game different. So anytime you get tired of the game, it would be trivial to go pick up one of these many myriad expansions that are likely going to be coming out.
Yeah, I mean, when I bought the game, they gave me a hill giant with the game. So in the box was the giant spider. That was the only monster. Then they gave me the hill giant. And then when I bought the dice I didn't buy them. I got the dice online, they gave me the earth elemental. And they keep adding creatures. I'm sure they'll add more units. They'll add more maps. They're going to add all kinds of stuff to this game.
Now, more importantly, I said it was expandable. It's not just that there are expansions like this. It's more that the way the game is written and the way the rules work is very conducive to easily adding expansions. It's kind of like a program that has hooks for other programs. It has hooks built into the rules to make it trivial to add rules without breaking anything.
Yeah, for example, a lot of the specific rules of the game are on these cards, and everywhere in the instruction manual it says if a rule is on a card, that overrides a rule in the book. Now, for how can I explain this? In the game that comes in the box of BattleLore without any expansions, there are a total of 4 different weapons that units might have. As normal units might have. There's the short sword, the long sword, the bow, and some dwarves have the crossbow.
Yeah, and there's just a card for each one of these items. So whichever what you want a unit has, the rules for that item are just on this card in front of you.
Right. So it would be very easy to say, make a bunch of miniatures that had spears. And then in that box of miniatures with spears, you put a card that says long spear. And it has the rules for the long spear on it. And now, congratulations, you've expanded the game.
So kind of what you do when you play a game of this is you take all the relevant rules cards for whatever you're doing, and which there's a standard set that comes with the game, and you lay them out alongside the board. And it's kind of like you have constructed the full rule book for this individual battle that you're having right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing a game and on the map for this particular adventure, it's a mountainous map. So you take the elevated terrain rules card and you put it down in case you remember the rules for elevated terrain. But there's no forest in this hill. It's a snowy hill. So you take the forest card that has the rules for forest tiles and you put it in the box because you don't need to look at it.
Yep, so basically you have, instead of a reference book, you have a modular reference sheet that is created at the time of play every time you play, which is kind of neat. I like this mechanic.
Yeah. Another thing about this game is it sort of bridges the miniatures gap, is that all the miniatures are plain gray plastic. So it's sort of like this bridge between like a war board game like Shogun or something and like a war hammer. It's like, oh, here's some miniatures. You can paint them if you want. You can buy more if you want.
I would recommend against painting them. While they're fairly high quality, they are not the type of miniature that would be easy or fun to paint.
Well, I don't know. I'm not big on miniatures painting, mostly because I don't have the skill or the time to do so.
I've painted a few in my day that turned out okay. I have some friends who were absolutely amazing at it.
But I look at some of these pictures of people who did paint them on Board Game Geek, and they're fairly impressive.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess if you have the skills and you're already a miniatures painting type of person, BattleLore is not so bad, mostly because you get a whole lot of miniatures for relatively little money. I mean, this game is $70-something bucks. You could probably get it for like high 60s.
I've seen it. A lot of people have bought it for $50 online.
Oh, maybe on eBay or something.
No, on straight-up websites. I forget the exact name of them, but all the Board Game Geek people were like, yeah, why would anyone pay more than $50 for this?
Anyway.
Plus $10 shipping.
Oh, well, there you go. But, yeah. No, but if your main interest is miniatures painting, you probably don't want to buy this just for miniatures painting. But if you might want to think about miniatures painting and you also want to play BattleLore, not a bad idea.
Well, you know what? It'd be a good thing to learn a little bit on just because you wouldn't worry about messing these pieces up. They're not the highest of quality.
Yeah, and there's so many of them. It's like, you go buy Warhammer, you buy a pack with like maybe 5 little dudes or 1 big dude. Here, you get a box with like 100 dudes in it.
Well, there's also the issue that in this game, the miniatures themselves don't mean anything. All that matters is the number of them on a hex.
Yep.
And the type of unit has nothing to do with the miniature like it would in a normal war game. It only has to do with the banner that's on the set of units.
Yeah, the miniatures and the actual look of the miniatures in this game is all flavor. And this game is heavy with the flavor. You got the flavor text, the flavor miniatures, the flavor tiles.
I'll admit that I've been mostly ignoring the flavor and just playing the straight-up tactical game.
Yeah. I've been paying.
I don't even segregate the proper kinds of miniatures. I just throw down little gray guys and put banners on them and go.
I haven't been paying to the as much attention to the flavor as the book would have you, but I have been paying attention to it because it's kind of fun. It's like, ooh, I'm moving a little spider. Whee!
Now, more importantly, we don't need to get into many of the details of the game. You can read all that online. You can watch. If you really want to see how this game works, check out Board Games with Scott.
Yeah, if you go to boardgameswithscott.com, there's a video. This guy shows you the basics of how this game works. He doesn't go into the advanced rules, but he goes into enough rules that you understand what's going on.
Yeah, because there is one other thing we didn't talk about, but we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
But the game itself, if you've ever played, there's this old game, I think it was called Battle System, that came with a big vinyl map and had all these hexes on it, and it plays almost the same as this game.
Yeah, I never played the game, so I don't know.
It plays almost exactly the same, with minor differences. And therein lies the point of contention between myself and pretty much everyone else we know, and Scott, who stands alone. In that, BattleLore is fun, and BattleLore is well done, and I think BattleLore has a lot of potential, especially with the fact that you can expand the game. But I do believe that the current game, as it is now, has enough randomness in it to the point that any individual victory or loss means very little.
Well, yeah, I am not going to dispute the fact that BattleLore, it is not a German game. It is not a heavy game. It is not a deep game.
It is a game for like 12 and up.
Well, it says on the box like 10 and up, right? I guess 12 and up would be good too. But yeah, this is not a game that is a heavy hitter. It is very light, which is why it only takes an hour, and the rules are simple. I mean, the book of the rules is big and impressive, but really, it's not all that complex. I mean, especially if you played a Command and Colors game before, it's not exactly the hardest game to play.
Yeah, in fact, if you played one of these games before, this adds just one thing, really.
Yeah, any middle school kid can play this game with ease without messing it up ever. So if you are the kind of person, like Rim, who can only seem to have fun in a game that is very, very deep and difficult and thought-provoking.
No, it's not even that. It's not that the game has to be very deep. It's that it has to be deep enough for me to get my foot wet. God damn. This game is so close to being everything I've wanted in a war game ever. It's so close, and I really wanted to like it. And a lot of people critique this game, but I think they go after the wrong things. Like, for example, the card drafting thing. You'll have 4 or 5 cards in your hand, and that really limits what you can do on the board. And while that can be annoying, and while there is, in individual hands and individual games, a lot of randomness there, it's mitigated, at least partly, by the fact that you're an intelligent human being who can make decisions. And also, it is a fairly elegant way to kind of abstract fog of war and difficulty of giving orders and delays of communication and all those things that happen in a battle without having to have individual mechanics for all of them. The card drafting thing on its own does not hurt this game very much. And in fact, I'd say that that's one of the best strengths of this game is how the card drafting works. But in addition to that, combat is all resolved with dice. And just for the scale of the number of dice used versus the number of hits it takes to kill a unit, luck can factor extremely heavily into sudden victories and defeats. And I have won and lost battles, very obviously, simply from one roll of the dice.
Yeah, I mean, there are ways that you can play to get, +1 dice here, -1 dice for the other guy there.
Well, die.
Yeah, die for the other guy there. But when it seems whenever anyone rolls the dice, most of the time it's just you miss because to hit is so incredibly difficult unless you're in such an advantageous position on the board.
Yeah, I mean, on a normal unit against a normal unit, you pretty much have to roll one face of a 6-sided die to do any damage.
Yeah, it's like you have a die, and only one side will hit. So it's basically roll a d6. On a 1, you hit. On anything else, you don't hit.
But 4 hits kills a unit. And say you have a unit who rolls 4 dice. There have been times where a powerful unit was suddenly wiped out by a random lucky roll.
Yeah, I mean, let's say you've got, I don't know, a mounted unit, a red mounted unit, which is very powerful, and it can pursue. So let's say it comes in on someone, and you give it a +1. You use a card to give it +1. So it rolls 5 dice. Let's say it gets 2 hits and a flag. That unit loses half of itself and is forced to retreat. Now he can pursue and attack again. It's just like, oh, you're dead. When normally it's so difficult to hit. So it really gets frustrating when a unit battles, either nothing happens or it just dies. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of in-between.
Yeah, couple this with the fact that this is a full strength till the end game. This is a game where no matter how damaged a unit is, it fights at 100% full power until it is destroyed.
All right, so if I have remember I was just talking about a red mounted longsword unit. It's a very powerful unit. Let's say it's been damaged by some archers pretty heavily. It can attack just as ferociously as it could at the beginning of the game. It doesn't matter. It's full offensive strength until it's dead, at which point it has no offensive strength.
Now, even that would be okay with me. See, my problem is that the game is so close to being good, but the card thing is okay on its own. And even the card thing plus the dice thing are okay on their own, because while they're both kind of random, in the end, they do kind of even out.
Yeah, and when you really look at those, the card thing and the dice thing, if you start looking at the numbers, they just abstract, look at Risk, right? Risk is not a game of, you're either dead or you didn't get hurt at all. It's a game of slowly get hurt, slowly get hurt, slowly get hurt. But it's also based on dice, and while the odds of those dice might be a little different, and drawn out over time, and it makes the game feel different, it really is just you roll the dice and someone wins and someone dies. It's just this game is so abstracted to make it so much more simple that it just does everything Risk does in 20 minutes in 1 second.
But that also gives you the problem of strategically, you don't have many options because if there's one unlucky roll, suddenly your whole strategy is boned. But because of the way the game is, you understand it's boned. You have no way out. You have no way to remaneuver. You have no way to reconfigure. It's just suddenly everything's done.
Yeah.
And it happens so quickly that every time I win, I feel like any other intelligent person playing my side would have made the exact same decisions I made, or very close, and the outcome would have been the same. And every time I lost, I felt like I was playing as best as I could, and anyone else sitting here would have played almost the exact same moves I played, as long as they were reasonably intelligent. And I think our friend Pete said it very well. It was either Pete or White who said that this game is like playing Warhammer on a 12 by 12 grid, in that you have units, and you feel like, oh, I'd like to send my cavalry around those woods to hide and wait, and then ambush while my archers come up from this side, or have some sort of even short-term minor strategy. But because the hexes are so big, and there are so few of them, and because the rules of movement make it very difficult to move very far, and just in general, you have very little actual maneuverability, and in most cases, any tactical movement you make is obvious. There is obviously a place you want to be. Put that blue infantry on that hill. Put those archers in that wood. Put those archers behind those two dwarves to make them double bold. Circle around back. Like, I never have to make any significant decisions. It's just obvious what the best thing to do is.
Mm-hmm. On the back of the board, if you flip it over, there is another half of a map with slightly smaller hexes on it. And they have been, they're obviously going to make an expansion for, like, epic play that may or may not include options for more than 2 players playing at once, and it will obviously be where you combine 2 boards together to make one bigger board with more hexes and more of that action. But yeah, compared to other games like what other games can I think of? I mean, just BattleTech, where there's a whole lot of hexes and you can move around a whole lot and there's all sorts of action. BattleLore, for as short as the game plays, you don't really move very far in that short time, yet you fight a lot. It's a lot less moving and a lot more fighting. And the fighting is dice rolling.
Yeah, and those 3 things together, the lack of actual tactical maneuverability, the fact that the dice are very random, and the fact that the cards are also random, leaves me feeling very unsatisfied when I play. I mean, I would much rather spend the extra time to play Shogun than to play a game like this, because Shogun is... While there is still randomness of the dice, because other aspects of the game are more deterministic, and because you have more maneuverability and more options, but not so many options to be paralyzed, the game feels so much more solid to me.
Yeah. I think the reason that I still like this game, even though I agree with pretty much everything that Rim said, is because when I play a war game, I'm not looking for, like I don't find war games fun for, military tactics and strategy, because I don't know much about military tactics and strategy, and I don't care. I don't think about, I'll flank those guys, or I'll go hook around those guys from behind. I think, I'm moving guys around, and they're going to fight. So when I play Advance Wars, I just move my guys around.
And that's why you always lose at Advance Wars.
Yeah, but I mean, if I want a game of strategies and big thinking, I go to my German games, because those are the kind of games that have things that I enjoy thinking about and that I can grasp, and I like that. But when I'm playing a war game, it's because I like to move guys around and I like to fight. So
well, I'm actually curious, what other war games have you played?
Axis and Allies, Risk, BattleTech.
All right, so you
Shogun.
played mostly bad war games. Shogun's okay, but Shogun is not. Shogun's a special case. It's a very interesting game.
Advance Wars, a couple of PC games,
I
guess.
To me, Advance Wars is pretty much the minimum level of tactical thought I can deal with. Anything below
my problem, the thing is, it's like every time I think about BattleLore, it's like, yeah, they made these dice random, but you look at Advance Wars and you say, all right, Advance Wars, the combat is deterministic. There's barely any randomness in the combat. And you say wasn't randomness in the combat of BattleLore, then that would mean that everyone would spend a lot more time thinking to before you actually fight, figure out, what the best combat was.
See, now to me, the easy way to solve that is the same way you solve it in German games with the Bewegung rule. You just play a game where you've got to make a decision. And if you can't think quickly enough, and I mean, be reasonable, like give someone a minute, but you just don't let people sit there and analyze.
I know that I would agree. However, war games tend to be anti-Bevacung. I mean, you watch guys playing miniatures games and war games in places, and for them, it seems to be all about taking as much time on your turn as possible and thinking about all this stuff.
See, whenever I've played war games, I always force myself to think quickly. Because in the real world, I wouldn't have had the luxury to sit there for an hour measuring the distances between all my troops to figure out if they're actually cohesive or if they're going to be routed when those riders come.
Yeah, that seems to be what war gamers are all about, though. And we're not. See, that's the problem, is that we're not war gamers, but sometimes we like to play a war game or two. So it's very difficult because the war games that war gamers like with their crayons and their little painted tanks and stuff like that, we really can't get into very much. Or the games that are really thick with historical accuracy. While we might like the historicalness, are very difficult for us to play.
See, I like them a lot more. I mean, I guess BattleLore is just a little bit below my line. If the hexes if there were twice as many hexes on the board, and if the game had one more tactical element, just one more, like troop formations, like say my infantry could switch between a line, a column, and a square. Anything like that, I think that would be enough to make this game bearable to me.
Yeah, it does. I do agree. There just aren't enough decisions to make. And often, when you have a decision that you can make, should I do this or do that? It's usually not one or the other. It's usually either yes or no. And the answer is almost always yes. Because you should do whatever you can to get ahead because the game's going to be over soon. Do something.
Yeah, but also, one time I played, and there was nothing I could do about it. I just got dicked by the cards. And while I think the cards are a cool mechanic, and I'm not saying we should change that, it was just the fact that I drew pretty much no useful cards. And in fact, I drew cards that I couldn't use effectively at all for the first 7 turns of one battle.
Yeah, I do like the cards a lot, but I do feel like they could have made this card deck bigger, more varied, and more kind of balanced. It's all right, I can understand you have this card that says Scout, move 1 unit on the left. All right, but you also get to draw 2 and keep 1 instead of just drawing 1 at the end of your turn. That seems that's a nice balance. You move less units, which kind of sucks, but you get an advantage, and now you're going to have a better chance of getting the cards you want next time.
Now, just imagine this, because this is similar to a variant I came up with as a kid for a battle system, which was...
Battle system I just looked up is the D&D thing. It's not what you're thinking of. You're thinking, I think,
Battle Masters. Battle Masters. I confused the two because I played Battle System with pieces of cardboard.
Yeah, I'm going to look up Battle Masters right now.
And Battle Masters I just played all the time, somewhat incorrectly because we just mass all the units up and have a big brawl. But the variant I came up with was the difference between that game and this game was that instead of each person having a hand of 5 cards, you shuffle this deck that has movement cards for both sides. And then you draw them one by one, so you don't even know what order your units are going to come up in. What if you had a drafting mechanism where you have a hand of cards, and you are allowed to put X of them into the communal deck? The other person is allowed to put X of them into the communal deck. You shuffle them, and then bring them up one by one. So now you have a race condition. Now you have a situation where you're choosing what situation you want to put yourself into, or what options you want to give yourself, but due to the fog of war, you can't determine the order in which they will take place.
Yeah, they're the other, I was going to say, you have the Scout card, okay? On its own, it seems balanced, but then you compare it to some of the other cards in the deck, such as move 2 in each sector. Okay, so that's not really even if, you draw 1 card and it allows you to move 1 unit, and another card maybe there'll be a card in there that says move 2 on the left. There's also a card in there that says move 2 on the left, 2 in the middle, and 2 on the right. So it's how is that, if someone draws the cards that let them move a lot of units, and the other guy gets all the cards that let him move very few units.
Like the last game we played.
Then it'll be very easy for the person who can move a lot of units to keep their units in tight formation. And because the only units that you can order can attack. I mean, let's say I get all 3s and Rim gets all 2s. I can attack him 3 times a turn, and he can attack me 2 times a turn.
Well, in the last game we played, my starting hand of 5, and I had a bunch of cavalry and a bunch of good archers. I had 2 Dark in the Skies, 2 mounted charges, and a center command. That was like I had every good card in my hand right then and there. And I just trounced all over Scott, and there was nothing he could do. There was no amount of skill on my part. It was just the fact that not only did I start with that hand, but I drew nothing but amazing cards through the whole game. I couldn't have cheated to do that well.
Yeah, it's like I like the mechanic of not having to deal with every unit every turn and having some sort of deck of cards that, you play a card and that's what you do this turn. The card dictates what you're allowed to do with your units. That's cool. But if you're going to do that, then you can't make it to where there are so few cards that you can be stiffed and, that the odds of being stiffed are pretty good. It has to be such that no matter which cards you get, by playing the correct ones and using them to their fullest ability, you can win. And that under almost, not 100%, because that's not possible, but almost under no condition will the best player in the world lose to a 10-year-old kid because he drew crap cards.
Still, I think in the end, the best way to mitigate the problems I see with this game, which are numerous, would simply be to add one more tactical element. And granted, we haven't talked about lore. Lore is basically the super CO powers from Advance Wars. And it's in this game.
That's really what the difference is in this game, because as you described the game so far, that's the same. It's basically the same as Memoir 44 and all the other Command and Colors games. What BattleLore adds is the goblins and the giant spiders and the lore, which is the magic action. And it does, as Rim said, work just like the CO powers from Advance Wars.
But even that added in does not add any tactical thought of any depth. Because, again, it's obvious what spell to cast, and the scenarios, at least for now, give you your War Council. So there isn't even the drafting of deciding your War Council.
Well, you do. In the later adventures in the adventure book, you do decide your War Council. They'll give you, X levels, and you can allocate them to your Lore Council however you want.
Yeah, that's the only thing we haven't played with yet. However, I don't think that level of drafting is going to have any substantial effect on the game.
It does seem like the level of your people in your War Council doesn't really matter that much. It's like, for some of them it matters a little bit, like the Cleric I've heard, and for the Command it matters a lot. But it seems like you're pretty much choosing, will I have a wizard, and thus my any wizard spells will be better?
Well,
or
also,
should I go get a rogue, and thus any rogue spells will be better?
It has the added element of the way they determine how many of each card are in the deck to be drawn is based on the levels.
Yeah, it's like, so if you know the deck of magic spells, then you go, okay, I really want to have the rogue spells in this game, so I'm going to put levels into rogue, so there's more rogue cards in the deck, And I guess that's just a matter of knowing the deck, but I don't think it really would have a big effect on the game. It's just choices of your CO power.
As the game stands, I feel like between two reasonably intelligent people, the deciding factor in who wins will more often than not be luck. Mm-hmm. Because unless one person makes a mistake or isn't smart enough or just doesn't understand how the game works on a fundamental level or just isn't paying attention to which cards have already been played or which side an opponent's been favoring or, all those little things that you just got to pay attention to in a game like this, there's not so much to the game. Nope. And I think if they added just one more tactical element, and I'm going to think long and hard and see if I can just write that expansion to make the game the kind of game I want. The problem is I need a more dense hex grid.
Yeah, well, I mean, there is the back of the board, and they are going to release another board to go with it and to make a double board. And who knows what will come of that in the end, but it'll definitely come out sometime, and if BattleLore is still interesting to us, I may or may not get it, depending on the price.
If you're expecting a hardcore war game, give this a pass, at least for now.
Yes. If you like only games where you have to, where there's some strategic thinking, the smartest guy wins, and any other kind of game pisses you off, don't buy this game.
If you've got 10 to 15-year-old kids or nephews, and they're at all interested in board gaming, they'll probably eat this right up.
Yeah, get this instead of HeroScape, which costs a lot more money and is not as good.
Not as good or as fun.
Yeah. But if you just like moving guys around and fighting, and you're the kind of person who likes to play Risk, but it takes so long, and after the first hour, you're no longer having fun, and you just want to give up, and you like fantasy settings, BattleLore might be what you want, because you get the same fun you get in the first hour of Risk with about the same level of thinking, and after the first hour, you're done. The game's over, so you don't have to cry about the other 3 hours of playing Risk that aren't fun.
Yep. However, the front row crew, we were talking about it, and most of us agreed that we would rather have played Shogun, despite the fact that it takes 3 hours.
Yeah, the thing is, Shogun for me, like I like it a lot, but it's only fun for me in the first hour, and then it's really painful.
That's
It's
usually
like-
because by
it's
the
like
third
a bigger,
hour.
It's like a bigger graph. It's like the beginning hour of Shogun is way fun, and then it goes way down to be incredibly painful.
I think part of that is because by the second and a half hour, you've got one army holed up in your fortress on Kyushu hiding from the massive Ronin armies of me and Pete.
It could be. It could be. I mean, I've done okay at Shogun in the past.
You
but-
have. We all have. Shogun's a great game.
Yeah, but it's like BattleLore is just it's fun for an hour if you like that sort of thing. You may or may not, and then it's over.
Yeah, I'll say that I haven't enjoyed it really at all yet, but I keep playing it because I want to make sure I'm not missing something, and I want to figure the game out enough to know exactly what point it is where I go from having fun to not having fun and make an expansion that fixes it. Because I'm not going to shit talk.
Because at the very least, if you buy BattleLore, this game comes with a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in there, and it's really easy to change. I mean, they give you access to this adventure editor online, and they pick like people's adventures to be like super like official adventures and stuff. So if you really like customizing games, but you don't want to collect games, there's also that aspect to it that's pretty fun. All right, so that's BattleLore.
Yep. So I guess last and certainly not least, just because we haven't mentioned it any day other than Wednesday, I think, but since we're doing the video game room, it's probably relevant. If any of you are headed to Katsucon next month,
if you live anywhere near Washington, D.C., or you can get to Washington, D.C. with, effort.
Yes, well, Katsucon is a great anime convention, but in addition to that, we are going to be hanging out in the video game room, emceeing, running tournaments, doing game shows, and generally having an awesome party time for the entire weekend at the con.
Yes, so if you want to come see us and perhaps get some stuff, I can't promise that, though.
Yeah, we may have the first tiny bit of swag, depending on how generous we're feeling, ready by Katsucon. And if nothing else, we'll be running some tournaments that may or may not have some prizes.
Yep, so come to Katsucon, see us in the video game room, participate in our awesome.
Yeah, we might even bring you on the show. We'll have all our equipment there. We'll basically be doing what those wacky radio guys do live outside of bars.
No.
Only without the wacky radio guys or the bars. It'll just be live. And that was Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for our opening theme.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com. If you like our podcasts, you'll love our forums. Make sure you visit them. You can send your email feedback to geeknights@gmail.com. And if you want, you can leave us a voicemail at 206-333-1537.
Geeknights airs every weeknight, Monday through Thursday.
Geeknights is recorded with absolutely no studio and no audience. But unlike those other talk shows, it's actually recorded at night.